Welcome. Tonight's Fresh Off the Stack is a little different because we're not just talking to one author about one book. We're talking to five Minnesota mystery and thriller writers who decided somehow, wisely or foolishly, to put their characters, voices, egos, plot instincts, and I would imagine several group email chains into a single shared novel, The Kill Code Collective, which comes out on May 18th. Together, these five writers bring legal thrillers, historical thrillers, biotech and technology, suspense, aviation, mystery, music, conspiracy, Minnesota settings, and a whole herd of established fictional characters into one collaborative project. So tonight, we get to talk to not only about the Kill Code Collective as a thriller, but also about a very strange magic trick of getting five novelists to write one novel together and hopefully still remain friends. Are you all friends still?
Yeah.
Last
We
I
still
checked,
talk.
yeah.
I've never met these people before in my life.
You had to be the odd one out, didn't you, Bob?
He's a troublemaker.
Oh yeah.
But here's our cast of characters. We have Brian Lutterman, a Minnesota mystery and thriller author whose work draws on his background as both a trial lawyer and corporate attorney. He's the author of Incel, Bound to Die, and the Penn Wilkinson series, featuring a sharp, memorable attorney protagonist. His first novel, Bound to Die, was a Minnesota Book Award runner-up, and his work often lives right at the intersection, kind of a three-way intersection, of legal pressure, corporate power, and suspense. We have John Rogers, who writes thrillers shaped by a career that has included finance, technology, biotech, venture capital. He's the author of the Mayfield Napolitani thriller series, including Fatal Score, Fail Deadly, and his fiction often brings technical and institutional knowledge into human scale stories about people under pressure. We also have Chris Norbury, award-winning author of the Matt Lanier mystery thriller series, including Street River, Castle Danger, Dangerous Straits. His series features a southern Minnesota farm kid turned professional musician whose life is upended when he stumbles into a violent conspiracy far bigger than himself. Chris brings music, Minnesota grit, conspiracy, and a healthy appreciation for danger to the collective. We have one woman on the panel, which is Julie Holmes. She's an author of Murder in Plain Sight, the first book in the Sierra Bauer mystery series. Her background is especially useful for thriller writing because she trained in aviation maintenance, worked as an aircraft mechanic at Detroit Metro, right around my hometown, and MSB, spent years in IT, and now works as a technical writer. Her fiction draws on that lived technical experience, especially through Sierra Bauer, a skilled aircraft mechanic navigating murder, danger, and high-stakes aviation suspense. And then finally, we have Rob Jung, who is usually on this side of the interview as my partner in Bell Cow Productions, but tonight he's joining us as a part of this ensemble cast of authors. Rob is an author, publisher, producer, former newspaper writer, and former lawyer whose fiction often grows out of history, travel, geography, religion, and the messy machinery of human behavior. His novels include Cloud Warriors and the Chimera trilogy, including The Reaper, The Sower, and Judgment Day, and his work frequently blends historical imagination with thriller pacing. Welcome, all five of you. Thanks for joining me tonight.
Yeah,
Glad to be here.
So, as somebody who loves doing collaborative writing, when I heard about this as a project, I was just like over the moon with excitement to hear how it went and how it came together. So, I guess I'm curious. Like, tell me the backstory. How did you decide to write this book collaboratively? Like, what was that spark, that genius moment? And who is responsible?
Brian.
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 Okay. I,
Own it,
I can
Brian.
run, but I can't hide. Um, it it began, I think, from an offhand remark I made at a meeting of that we had on some other matters where it's just a throwaway line. I said that I thought that Julie's character Sierra and Chris's character Matt Lanier would make a good couple, and we had a chuckle about that. But the idea kind of took root in my mind at that point. I thought, wouldn't it be fun to have a story where our characters would actually uh, be part of the same story, work together, interact, and so that's how the crazy idea came about, I guess. And so we got into it without a whole lot of, well, with no idea how it would really come about, what the process would be. Uh, we and Chris did some research which showed, he said, I don't think anybody's actually really done this before, five authors in one story. So we had to kind of make it up as we went along, and both the process and the result far exceeded our expectations. It was a tremendous experience, and we are all extremely proud of the result.
Well, I haven't read it yet, so I am super excited to get my copy Minnesota Mystery Night when you guys officially launch it on the 18th. Julie, I'm curious, what did you think about Brian's offhand comment about your character and Matt? Like, were you like, no, that would never work, or that's an obvious connection I hadn't
I
thought
should mention,
of?
I forgot that Sierra had a boyfriend. So it had been a couple years since I read the book,
Are
so
you
it
kidding?
wasn't.
That was the
But you
whole
know
like
what? I
first.
think Sierra should dump the loser and get Matt. Okay.
No,
Matt's
that
damaged
would
goods. You can't have
that would not work.
that.
Yeah, I don't think their personalities would work very well together, honestly.
Yeah.
It's funny.
We
I
can't have a
imagine you.
soap opera among our characters.
Yeah.
That wouldn't work.
I,
So you asked what I thought when Brian tossed that. I think I totally ignored that comment. It's that selective hearing thing.
Yep.
I don't even remember that part of it. But the idea of us all combining our characters, I thought if we could pull that off, that'd be pretty cool, actually.
I imagine
But
it
then,
kind of being like playing with action figures or something. Like, you have these other people's toys that you get to play
yeah.
with. You get to create your own world then. But in this case, like you're collaboratively playing with four other people, and you each get to kind of dabble with those. John, I'm curious, was there a particular character that you were looking forward to pushing down the road of whatever story you felt like telling, or challenging one of the characters of your friends here in a unique way they hadn't done so far?
Um, I think that character, I didn't think of that actively, but I think that character was Penn, um, who is older, more seasoned, and a lot of things that Louise Napolitani isn't at this point in her life. And so it did kind of work into a mentor-mentee relationship as we went along. Um,
Mhm.
and it was by virtue of the way the plot ran, it was natural that they would be squeezed together sort of as the experts.
John, would you
Mhm.
talk about how Wheezy ended up the age that she is in this story? I think it's really interesting.
Um, Without taking a long time, my first novel I started in 2011. The genome had been sequenced in 2000, and I could watch the amount of information expanding. And the book I wanted to read or that I wanted to write really had to be out in about 2030, according to my guesses back then. So that's the way I wrote it. And Wheezy was in her 30s then, and so I never told anybody, but she was born in 2001. And here she's just out of MIT's, been fired from her first job where they kind of burned her desk in the parking lot. And here she is back at MIT looking for hackers. And a guy comes along and says, "We've got a heck of a problem. Um, I'll pay you $400 an hour if you'll come out to Minnesota." He didn't say it was
In the
February.
winter.
In the winter.
In the winter.
But
Yeah.
I guess you de-aged your character, John, is what I was driving at. You wrote a younger version of her. That must have been really fun to do.
Yes, it was a lot of fun. In fact, it was so much fun that the next novel I'm writing is her at about this time. A
Great,
prequel.
great.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
I love that. I mean, they're de-aging people in movies all the time and TV shows. It makes sense that you would do it in fiction. So,
Yeah.
Chris, I'm curious. Did Matt end up making a band out of all the other members, or did anybody
Well,
else become
it
inspired
turns out
musically?
none of them could carry a tune, so I just gave up after a while. No, I put Matt into the story after his trials and travails with my first three novels. So he is severely damaged goods, PTSD, has killed people, has been shot at seven or tried to been killed 7 or 8 or 9 times, lost two of his good friends, lost his ex-wife. So he's a total basket case, but he's still a brilliant musician. And so I thought I'll put him in here. And as the story, as the plot developed and things, I thought we got a lawyer and we got a airplane mechanic, we got a computer genius, and we got Rob's character, the shady lawyer. I thought they need an emotional, kind of loose cannon, sort of, so to speak. And I
Right.
thought, okay, Matt's perfect for that because he's really messed up. He's still, working through all the stuff from the first three books. So I played him up as being, the one who jumped into the fight, the one who, just let's get this going. Let's find out. He was beating people up. He was ready to, do that sort of stuff. So I played that as kind of to balance off, the brilliant minds and the technical savvy and all that sort of stuff, and the legal things. So we'd kind of have a sort of a well-rounded group of people. And so that was easy to do, but it was just then. And then he was basically, once the story's done, he's going to go back and crawl into a shell and try and figure out more things. But the book I'm working on now, he's back up in Castle Danger, courting the woman that he saved in Castle Danger and hoping to make a go of it. But it's not an easy road for him, as you will find out if I ever finish the book.
I have faith that you will. Hey, Rob. So tell us about your shady lawyer. How does he factor in here? And I also bonus question for you, since I know you like coming up with character names. You didn't have to come up with character names here because suddenly all of these other characters already had names and well documented backstories. How is that?
Well, actually, I can take credit for the ultimate villain in the story. I took her name, Gina Apate, and not even my four co-authors know that I picked the name because Apate is the Greek goddess of mischief,
Hmm.
and that's why her last name is Apate. But
Cool.
my slimy little lawyer character, who's an international fixer and a man of many nefarious and a lot of skullduggery talents, was kind of fits into this on the. He sort of flits around the edges of the story of the rest of them. He's there, he plays a role, but it's not the same kind of role that the four characters, five if you count Sierra's boyfriend, play in this. They are the solution people. My guy is more the sort of keeps things churning because there's money in it for him, and but they all end up getting together and being they at least tolerate him.
Yes.
But it was fun to write this. It was fun to write the character. He's been in all. He was in all three of my books of the Chimera Chronicles trilogy, and I think he's nearest and dearest to my heart. I think of all the characters I've written.
Well, Rob, I've got to say that we were talking about, the characters that right at the very beginning that we would use, and that, we would use Pan and Wheezy, Matt, Sierra, and then you had characters that are in as part of the Chimera Chronicles and one of your standalone paranormal book. You had some classic protagonists, detectives, people who solve crimes that would have been logical to include in a group of crime solvers like we have. But then you said, no, I'm going to use Hawk. And that's when I was absolutely sold. I was absolutely hooked on the entire concept to have Hawk, who keeps switching sides, coming up with creative ways to make money. Is just he was perfect.
Yeah, Henri Hawk is a good character, and the reality was I used him because I didn't want to have to compete with you for on the good person side of this. So
Yeah.
So we've established Brian was the catalyst that made everything kind of happen. Who came up with the idea of the medical thriller? Because that's how it's being like marketed. Like, who came up with that idea
When
as
did that happen first?
John,
Is that you,
John,
Brian?
no, I think it was you, John.
Okay.
Wasn't
I'm
me,
afraid
I guarantee that.
I'm afraid it was me again.
Was it?
It's we each threw in like 2 or 3 ideas into
Oh, that's right.
made a list, and I have to confess that the medical thriller was probably my number 3 idea, but everybody jumped on it immediately, and in hindsight, it certainly appears to have been uh, the right choice for us. Not the least because we had a couple of people here who have some technical expertise as well as some contacts to do the research that we needed. Both Julie and John knew people in the industry and can explain. I mean, Julie's a technical writer, can actually explain how some of these things would work.
interesting? So for somebody who doesn't know what the story, I mean, we focused really on the novelty of 5 people doing this, but like, what is the sales pitch? Like, what's the the quick elevator pitch that you got for somebody out there who is considering this book?
Rob.
Yeah.
No, you're the pitch guy.
You're the
Yep.
pitch man, yeah.
Okay, all right. 4 strangers drawn together because of circumstances that seem unrelated, but are all connected to the fact that the people that are involved with have heart transplant devices, and suddenly people started to die
Yeah.
because of faulty devices, and that fact draws them all together, and they learn that the manufacturer is doing a cover-up of faults in its thing, and at the same time is being blackmailed by somebody who knows about the faults. And this group comes together in an effort to try to solve that problem, the problem being who's doing it and how are they doing it, how are they manipulating these devices. So I hope the elevator at least goes to the 20th floor, so I've had enough time to explain
I
all
was
that.
gonna say it's a very slow moving elevator. It's
A
okay.
slow moving elevator. But that's really the story. The story is is about the manipulation of heart implant devices remotely for nefarious purposes, and the effort of a disparate group of people from various backgrounds to get together and to try to prevent that from happening again.
Like it.
I found the blurb. I want the
Okay.
blurb. A
Yeah, cool.
grieving husband believes a faulty cardiac implant killed his wife. Now he's found a way to turn the ICD implanted cardiac device into a silent weapon, forcing those responsible to expose the flaw. His cause is righteous, his method is murderous.
Ah,
Should have
I
read
don't know
that
when we
before
came up with
I
that.
said
And
anything.
as a result, technological terror is just a heartbeat away.
Oh, that's good.
That's our tagline.
All right.
Okay, everybody memorize that.
Yeah, please. Yeah,
I'm just
instead of
gonna
letting me
read the book.
blunder around.
Read the book, yeah.
So
read the book. Yeah.
I am curious about the collaborative piece of it and how often you had to kind of reel one another in and say, no, my character would never do that, or I don't like how you did that thing. And if there were anything that came out of the writing process that maybe changed how you're going to use your characters moving forward.
Could I answer that?
Do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're
Love to
the-
hear what
Yeah.
you have, John.
The thing that happened that was unusual that made it work really was Brian being a silent leader. Um,
Hmm.
and the way we structured the book made easy entrance because if as you read the book, you see that each of the characters comes in through circumstance. And so the writers have a chance to just write the person that we know really well within the circumstances of the plot. So by a third of the way through the book, we've all had a chance to kind of, stretch a little bit like you do before a run. And we've got our characters in, they're trying to talk about the plot and so on and so forth. And then that really, and Brian would have us have Zoom meetings every so often. And then when we had to get together, we were all more comfortable because I'd read about Sierra, I'd read the book before, and I'd read about what she put in for the beginning of the book. And I'd read about Matt, I'd read his book, and I'd seen him in this environment before I ever had to before I ever had to get together with everybody. That for me was what made it work. Silent leadership,
Yeah.
Brian.
Yeah.
Well,
Schmidt.
Yeah.
part of it though too, and I think a big part of it was we're all authors. We all write thriller, mystery, suspense. We know the mechanics of plot.
Yeah,
We understand that all the characters have to have a purpose. They have to have a goal. And I remember discussions we had, why does this character do this? There's
yeah,
got to be a reason they had to do that. And the story, we adjusted the story to make sure that
yeah,
all of that, all of those pieces worked the way that we knew they had to work.
yeah.
And for me, that was maybe the fascinating. I don't know if fascinating is the right word, but it was fun to see all those pieces with all of us knowing the mechanics like that
Sure.
when we are putting all those pieces together.
But I
Interesting.
think the
And I would,
process was, go ahead, Rob.
no, I was going to say, just add to what Julie said. I think with that, maybe the most remarkable human thing is that everybody parked their ego at the door, and there was never a question about whether somebody got a bigger part or a lesser part. There was never, any issue about, um, whether uh, the the anybody's individual character was being treated unfairly or was getting, there's none of that. And the whole process was done collegially.
Yeah.
And I think that's a credit to I applaud all four of you. Um,
And yourself.
well,
Yourself.
but
Yeah.
my
It was,
I've got
and
the biggest ego here, so it's just
when, when when you consider, in addition to that, that we are all used to having our characters be the sole focus of attention, the sole
Sure.
protagonist in
yeah.
Mhm.
in our stories, and now they're just one out of five or so. That was even more remarkable, and that's why when Rob and I formed the Mystery Works several years ago, we didn't have this project in mind, but we wanted people in general who would be easy to work with, and we really exceeded our expectations on that. But it was really a growth experience, I think, for all of us. It was for
Sure.
me
Mhm.
to have my
Yeah, it
character
was.
be subordinate to others. In some cases, to have my character written by others,
Others,
or have other characters reacting to her in ways that I couldn't control. That that
Mhm. Yeah.
I learned a lot about my character that way. And among other things, every word I had ever written in my six Ben Wilkinson books, uh, every scene she was in first person, in her first person voice. And so I had to write her in third person for the first time. Just a lot of stuff like that uh, made it really fun. And we mentioned how uh, we have, this certainly not our first rodeo. We are five pretty experienced thriller authors, but uh, it really uh, what came together for us was the chance to have everybody contributing good ideas, new ideas as we went along, and we just built on each other, and there was really a lot of synergy there. It was the bigger than the sum of the parts, I think, and it
Yeah.
was just really a fun process.
I'll second the idea about the ego checking at the door. That's what scared me the most because I mean I know all these folks and we work together, but it's just more like conversations and chatting. And oh, I read your book, and everybody's read everybody's books. But I am the classic loner. I mean, I go on solo Boundary Waters canoe trips. That's how much I don't like to hang out with people. And in my writing career, I have never been in an in-person writing group ever since I started writing in 2008. And I think most
Oh,
people, most writers have been in some sort of a group, either with a critique partner or a small group, or they go to things. But my critique experience was several years on Critique Circle, which is a totally online critique thing. You submit chapters and people read them and they critique your work, and you read their chapters and critique their work and get credit. So you learn how to take criticism, you learn how to give criticism. And so stepping into a totally online situation like we had, other than being face to face on Zoom, that was relatively easy for me to say, okay, I can work with these people because I'm not sitting across the table and one saying, gee, that aftershave really is strong. I wish they'd tone that down, or something like that. It's all about the work. And then the other point I wanted to make was talking about our five characters working together, is that in a way it was easier because each character didn't have to carry the entire story. I just had to worry about what's Matt going to do? How is he going to react? What's going to happen then? I started thinking about what's going to be, the final scenes. And so that made it a little bit easier as long as we had that common goal of getting to stop these bad guys. And once we read all the short stories that people started with to introduce their characters in the book, and then you're going, okay, that's where they're coming from, and I can work with that in mind and work towards that meeting that we all had and said, we got a problem here, let's fix it. So that was a good part for me, is that the egos were just non-existent, and everything was, how can we make the story better? How can we make it better? And that was amazing. I was really amazed because all I've heard is horror stories about writers groups. And the one person who thinks they're the prima donna and everybody else is just their little lackeys. So
that's awesome. That's wonderful. I mean, that's really what you want in a group for sure. And you start friends, you want to end friends as well, and you want to treat each other respectfully. And clearly that worked out well. I am curious, like the canon question is the question I'm wondering now is like these characters have gone off on their own. They've had this one kind of together adventure. And now I'm wondering, like, did that happen in a vacuum? Or are future books going to reference back to this moment? Or, like, does it become part of the world of each of your characters? Or is this just kind of a one off? And I'm really asking it because, like, I used to read comics, right? And, like, Spider Man had adventures, and, like, there was one story, like, if you followed that comic book, it was consistent. But then there were other versions where those worlds were separate. So I'm wondering, is it
The
like that
Marvel
in your books?
Universe, Michael.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, is
um,
Penn going to be in third person now? Like, are you going to dabble with that?
No,
Or,
I'm not. But in this book, The Kill Code Collective, I make reference to her moving on to her next project, which will appear in my next book. So that's a bit I haven't thought a lot about in the future if I'll be referring back to this, but I feel free to do it. I think could well work out okay.
So that won't
What
work
about you guys?
that won't work for me
No.
because well, because my books are set in 1993
Yeah.
and this book is set in now.
Yes.
And so I intentionally didn't reference age. I didn't reference Quinn and Sierra's status. Other than that, they're partners because I know what happens, but it happens way before this actually happens.
Sure.
Hmm.
So yeah, it won't show up in my Sierra books.
What about
And
you,
John,
I
John,
have-
you've
I-
embraced this the de-aging and
Yeah.
you've embraced a young Wheezy.
well, I always liked Wheezy. She was supposed to be a minor character. She filled a slot in the plot of the first book. She had to show up in a diner in North Dakota and go up against Joe Mayfield, who's the other character. And the thing was, she was so she's based on three people I know, and she was such a giant pain in the ass that she just had to get to be larger and larger and larger. So.
Rob? What about you? What about Mr. Hawk?
Henri does his own thing. Yeah, I have no idea where he's going to pop up again. I have no doubt he will.
He might show up in one of our books and we won't even know it.
He might, yeah. Yeah, if he is, he'll be the one collecting the money when you sell
That's
them.
right.
So I don't know. I am sure he's not in the book I'm writing right now is has nothing to do with any of the characters that I've written in the past. This is a completely different sort of historical mystery. But in the future, who knows what I, I think of him as sort of like a greasy Lupin, if you've ever seen followed that. He's not quite as robust and he's more of just sort of he has a mind of his own and he'll do what he wants to do, and chances are he will succeed and walk out of there with the money and the girl. And by the way, I should tell you that the only romantic thing that since Matt and Sierra were destined not to get together, the only nuance of romance in our book is between Hawk and Wheezy.
Mhm.
So,
It's just in Hawk's mind, as far as I
well,
know.
of course,
isn't it?
it's in
Yeah.
Hawk's mind, but
Right.
Well,
Although
Chris,
there was
you said
there was
you're
one little short conversation where Penn and Wheezy were talking about Matt, and one of them said, "Oh, he's kind of cute," and then the Penn or somebody said, "Well, did you know he killed two people?" And I think she was telling Wheezy, and Wheezy's probably her eyes bugged out bigger than her head,
Yeah,
and then that probably stifled all that any sort of romantic attraction there.
yeah,
so
yeah, for
so
sure.
Chris, you're actively writing right now. You said the follow up to Castle Danger.
Yeah.
I mean, does this factor in there? Is this referenced in any way, or
I hadn't thought about that question. I've been thinking about it now, but the trouble I've had writing my prequel to Castle Danger was my first book, and then Straight River came out. That's the prequel, and then Dangerous Straits was the third. It's like I don't want to try and figure out the history and when this happened and what's going on now. I may drop a little reference, now and then, because Matt does have some time between when he stops the conspiracy and when he goes back to hook up with Alice and Clifford up in Castle Danger again. So I could drop a reference like, well, I had kind of a slow fall last year, and so I hung out with these or a slow winter, and right before I came up here to see if you're still interested, we had this little adventure together or something like that. But I don't foresee that just because it might be tricky to work it in. Plus, I'd have to get permission from these people to use their characters' names or something like that. Pay your
Yeah, sure.
royalty.
So I know the book launch is on the 18th of May, and you'll all be at Minnesota Mystery Night, and that'll be fantastic. I'm looking forward to getting my copy. I'm curious, like, what else is in store? Where do people find it? What kind of readings or events are you guys doing? Are you doing other group events? Like, what does the promotional piece of this look like?
Um,
Rob, sounds like you.
Yeah,
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 Rob's
Bob.
got the
I
schedule.
probably know this better than anybody.
Yeah.
We will, we've got the Minnesota Mystery Night on the 18th. On the 21st, we will be on the Book Club radio show out of Buffalo, Minnesota, WR. Can't think of it right off the top of my head. And on the 21st, we'll have a book signing at Once Upon a Crime Bookstore. On the 30th, that's the 23rd, and on the
23rd.
30th, yeah, 23rd, and then on the 30th, we will be in Austin, Minnesota at Sweet Reads Books. We are scheduled in July to be at the Adult Book Festival at the State Fairgrounds. We've got a couple other things after that. The
July
best place,
31st will be in White Bear Lake Country Books,
Oh,
White
that's
Bear
right.
Farmers Market.
okay, that's one I'm not aware of yet. So send me a text or an
We're
email
still
on that one,
we're
Brian.
still doing the signing at the Book Nook in Delano after the radio spot, right?
Right.
Or no?
We'll talk about that later
Oh, okay.
when we're off the
Okay.
air. Um, the um, so, but there's a series of things. The best, the certainly you'll be able to buy this book on Amazon or any of the other electronic book sales media platforms. You will be able to buy it from any of us through our websites, and you'll be able to get it at Once Upon a Crime Bookstore. You'll be able to order it from any bookstore that you want to go to. The book is being distributed through Ingram so that it's worldwide distribution, so you can get it anywhere. So I wanted to add one thing that has kind of been glossed over. This organization, these 5 writers, me and these other 4 people who put up with me, um, formed a group called Midwest Mystery Works. It was really Brian's idea, and he approached me, and we did that. And then we invited John and Chris and Julie, and they said yes. But we were primarily put together for group marketing purposes. So we share information about each other's work and what we're doing on our, websites and in our newsletters and blogs and that sort of thing. So the book itself was sort of an outlier of what we've done. And I will say that everybody really, I think, enjoyed it. I think we are all surprised how well it turned out. And I think we are unanimous in saying we'd never do it again.
Absolutely.
If there's a word more than unanimous, then yes.
Yeah.
Well, what I say is that we concluded that nobody had really done anything like this before, and now we know why.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say everybody that I've seen have left wonderful reviews. There was a great piece in the Pioneer Press about it. Or I don't even know how many reviews on Amazon, 19, 20, something like that. Goodreads as
19,
well.
19 on Amazon as of this morning and 10
And
in
on Goodreads, yeah.
Goodreads, yeah.
And a lot of the other kind of news things are picking it up as well. Like even Yahoo has a story about it as well. So I mean,
they
I
do?
think yeah,
Really?
I saw it. I saw it just before
Wow.
we got on here. So I think they
I'm gonna
picked
have
up
to
on the
look for that.
Pioneer Press story.
Oh, got
So
it.
yeah, I mean, there's a
Awesome.
buzz, and I am so excited to get my hands on this on the 18th. Is there anything else that I haven't asked you that you would like to share or plug or mention?
One thing I feel compelled to mention is that the premise of this book, the subject matter and the premise is it's unnerving at best and maybe downright disturbing to some people. And in part that's because our technical experts, John and Julie, did a great job of making this seem really plausible. And so we actually felt compelled to write a little note on the book that said, this has never actually happened. If you have one of these devices, you don't need to worry about this. Having said that, though, the medical device companies are afraid of it happening. They invest heavily in the security of their integrity of their devices, and so that's the good news. So anyway, I was a little taken aback by a couple of the. I mean, you see thrillers with some really nasty premises. I don't think more so than this one probably, but I was a little taken aback by the reaction of some people. Say, "Oh wow," and I don't know. Rob, the reviews I don't think have really mentioned that. So far so good. I hope.
Yeah. But I've heard the rumor that once the book comes out, that John and Julie are going to be hired by Medtronic.
Consultants will be overpaid.
We would be amiss if we did not mention a endorsement which calls this book a smooth, fast-paced, thoroughly enjoyable medical thriller by a gentleman named William Kent Kruger. So that's hopefully that will also add to the buzz and the surrounding the book. But I mean, not like a cowbell podcast will, but that's you take what you can get. So.
I just want everybody that's watching this. There's the cover. The cover is there. We'll get it right. At the bottom of the cover is the silhouettes of our 5 characters. The big guy in the middle, of course, is Matt, and Penn is the one in a wheelchair, and I don't know if it's left or right of the way you're looking at it right now, but she's on one end, and Hawk is the little short guy with the hat on.
Yeah.
And then Wheezy and Sierra flank Matt. But it's I think you will find it, you listeners and viewers will find it a very engaging story. We didn't really have any expectations particularly, other than to try to make something that wasn't a total disaster. And I think it turned out to be a lot better. It was kind of like, being on the Titanic and finding the last lifeboat.
Well, I just hope that it would hang together reasonably well and not suck. But I think we exceeded that by quite a bit. It's a good book.
I
Seems
do
like
have
you
one
guys have
anecdote
turned.
about the cover though, that Rob showed it, and the first version of that cover was Matt as somebody who would dwarf Jack Reacher.
That's right. He looked like the Hulk.
And I thought, where did they get that idea that this, homely or this humble little bass player from Minneapolis is going to look like this gigantic muscle man? So I said, no, guys, you got to tone him down. He's just a regular sized guy, above average height, average weight, nothing special. So they lopped about 6 inches off him and probably about 100 pounds off of his body and narrowed his shoulders by a foot. So he looks pretty normal now. But the first time I saw that, I just laughed and I said, did I paint that portrait of him in my books? And that's what somebody thinks. It's like, no.
Yeah, well, it fits Matt way better than Tom Cruise fits Reacher.
Yeah,
That's
right.
The ultimate miscast.
But
my
the
goodness.
TV Reacher is perfectly
TV
cast.
Reacher is much
Alan
better.
Richardson, that's what I've read all
That's what
books.
yep.
That
that's what
is Matt, that is as Jack Reacher in the flesh.
Yep.
Absolutely, they
Yep.
nailed that casting, perfect casting.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tom Cruise, nice actor. Stick to Top Gun, Tom. That's all I can say.
Well, and in my opinion, the problem with with Tom Cruise is that when he is in a movie, you can never forget it's Tom Cruise.
Yeah,
Right. That's very true. Good point.
He just never really gets lost in the character. He's always Tom Cruise.
Hmm.
Oh,
Well, you guys, as far
Anyway.
as I'm concerned, you have pulled off a magic trick. I mean, to get 5 writers together on the same page to write something that feels cohesive and original and exciting, by all accounts, you've done that. And yeah, everyone should run out and grab a copy of the Kill Code Collective. It'll be available on the 18th. You can pre-order it now. And if you can come to Minnesota Mystery Night, all the better. We'd love to see you there.